Good morning, Heidi Foy here with Bullfrog Creatives in partnership with the National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association and the official CNFR. You guys, we are dangerously close to completing this countdown. I look at my calendar because I had written how many days, like 11 days out from the CNFR kicking off. It's coming in fast, and I will probably say that all the contestants that have all the regions have wrapped up. Everybody, we all know who's coming. We all know who's qualified. They probably don't think it can get here fast enough. I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done as far as like setup and all of that stuff, which we will kind of give you some behind the scenes stuff starting next week for what that looks like if you guys are interested in that. But we are going to chat with Faith Hoffman and Seth Glaus, who is the student and faculty director for the Central Rocky Mountain region. Sometimes it gets confusing. The Central Rocky Mountain region is the home region for the CNFR, Casper College, where we are located, well, where I am located, where the CNFR is being held, is in the Central Rocky Mountain region. So they are our home region. I would say fan favorites locally. So this should be a pretty good chat. You guys don't leave. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we have a full, I would say studio because it sounds better, but a full screen today.
Yeah, this is better than last year. Just Heidi and I, and really it was just me half the time.
Yeah, because I launched into this random coughing fit, which it's not quite gone, but we're getting close. And even better, it's Coffee and Conundrums Day at the real estate office. So I got a fancy coffee today.
Nice.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, we might be spoiled around here, but
You should be.
Totally okay with it. So you guys, thank you so much for coming in, joining me, getting on, however it works. It's been a long year. I mean, it's the same year, but it feels like it's been longer. Like I said, we're dangerously close to starting like setup around here. I know there's a lot of hubbub in the community already about the CNFR coming back to town. Visit Casper has started some promotional stuff online. Obviously, tickets have been on sale for like May. I think they start in May, maybe even in April. Clearly, I'm not paying attention. You can tell that I don't buy tickets, so I don't pay attention to that. But I would say that the community is certainly ready for everyone to come in. Faith, let's start with you. Talk to me about, this is your last year. Talk to me about your role as a student director and what that has meant to you.
It's definitely bittersweet, knowing it's all coming to an end. This is my 6th year competing in college rodeo, so it's been a long road. 2nd year as a student director, and it's such a cool opportunity. The girl that's actually taking my place goes to school where Seth coaches, and I was talking to her just about the opportunities and all the fun things you get to do. And, not only do you get to see a different side of rodeo, being a part of these board meetings and getting to be a part of decision-making in that kind of side of rodeo instead of just being a competitor anymore, but you get to meet a lot of cool different people and from other regions, not only just in Casper but in Vegas when we go to our winter meeting as well. And I got lifelong friends now from it, that I know I'll be in contact with for years to come, rather than just this time in college rodeo, which I think college rodeo provides that anyways, but it's a new opportunity. It's cool.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the things we've talked about with every region so far is the student director position typically is a 2-year position. We are seeing some of longer, like especially right now, last year and right now, because of that COVID year. So, and I would say typically a couple of regions will roll over at a time. And I think this year there's going to be a really big rollover.
Yeah, usually they're it used to work out where, half the regions would get a new director and the half, since it was a 2-year term, it kind of worked out. But with COVID, Quincy, who was the director here before me, she went 3 years because of COVID instead of just the 2. And so I actually have served just a two-year term, normal, I guess, as a 5th and 6th year. But yeah, I know Jade, I think she's served 3. Quincy served 3, and that just kind of offsets. And there's a lot of 1 years too, with COVID and stuff like that. So I think there will be a lot of turnover on the board, on the student side this year.
Perfect. Seth, how about you? How long have you been the faculty director for the Central Rocky Mountain region?
This has been my first year as a faculty director. It's been a good experience, learning experience. Very thankful for Faith, who's taught me a lot.
Yeah, and I think that, we spoke with Del Nose last week, who is the faculty director from the Big Sky region, and he's been the faculty director and there might have been 1 or 2 years that he wasn't the faculty director, but he's probably been the faculty director for a good 10 plus years for the Big Sky region. And I don't think I personally really knew how much more is added to your plate as the faculty director than having that conversation with Del. So can you talk to me a little bit maybe about the things that you weren't expecting or the things that you did expect, but they went better than you thought? I mean, just kind of give us a little insight there.
Yeah, we have a great region. Working with the coaches, trying to get their rodeos set up, getting judges. Those are the things that you kind of just don't think about, that you think happen overnight, and it's kind of a process. Going to the board meetings, that's been an interesting experience. Learned a lot, kind of the inner workings of rodeo and how the NRA operates. Those were things that I knew were going to happen, just didn't really know how they would happen. Working with the students has been a great experience. I'm just, like I said, Faith's been amazing. She's really good about organizing her directors and making it a seamless process for all the people involved. Tammy, myself, the judges. It works very smoothly and operates very good.
Very cool. So before we get too far, I printed all the things. It only took me 3 weeks to finally get my ducks in a row, or in the same room. I'm not going to get that crazy. Just coming up on what we have. I mean, really, things will start happening for the CNFR this week. So based on my little calendar here, by Friday, we'll have position draw. So all the contestants will know when they draw. Typically, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a little while, all of the rough stock riders will have their first go on Sunday, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then will all the breakaway ropers go Sunday, or is it just a portion of some breakaway ropers?
It's just a portion. I want to say it's a good amount of them that go Sunday, and then Monday they're split Monday or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. The rough stock, the breakaway ropers, they'll all get their first 2 Sunday through Tuesday, and then the rest of us are Monday, Tuesday when our first 2 goes are.
Okay, so technically everyone will have gone twice at the end of the slack Tuesday morning, and then everybody gets also an opportunity to perform in an evening performance.
Yep.
So this is where it gets kind of confusing for our fans. Tuesday night is the start of the third go, and the third go runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night. So it seems like it's a different rodeo every night, which, I mean, it is a different rodeo, but all of those runs are combined for that third round.
Yeah, and then tallying up average, what you are on Tuesday, but then my first year I made it, I was up in the goats Tuesday, so I knew my average on 3 Tuesday night, but I didn't rope my calf till Thursday, so I didn't know what my chances were, and you sweat out a lot longer. And
yes. So the first year that I made it in the barrel racing, my third go was Tuesday night, and the last girl Friday night bumped me.
Oh,
so that's a long week of waiting. But it is what it is. That's the draw, and there's no changes. I will say that I've noticed that there are some regions not at the college finals, but some regional rodeos offer trades, which also wasn't a thing when we were going.
We're unique in that aspect. I don't want to say we don't offer trades, but you get one a semester. Correct me if I'm wrong, Seth. And it's not for position. You can't trade for position. It's, sister's wedding or a funeral or a test or something like that. Yeah.
Who were we talking to last week? They were talking about a couple of student athletes that they have that compete but are in like pre-law or pharmacy school and pre-med stuff that, they were trading a lot because they couldn't miss Fridays. So I think that definitely makes sense. I do like that it's an option and for a reason, not just, I don't want to go in the slack or I don't want to whatever.
Yeah, and we have a thing called Saturday only where you can get set up to be only up Saturday. Now it's not, and to make sure not everyone, just gets set up Saturday only. If, say, you were in the barrels, you'd be last out, and if you're in a drawn event, you'd be first out on Saturday, just, to make sure that's not an incentive for just anyone to do it.
Right.
But we had a couple nursing students rodeo last year for us, and so it was able for them to go to school, do their nursing classes Friday, be there, and then come rodeo Saturday.
Well, and I think that's important because clearly, listen, let's be honest, not everybody goes to school to go to school. There are some that go to school to rodeo, and that's okay. That's their choice. But I would say a large majority of the student athletes are going to school and get to rodeo. And so you don't really want that to get in the way of your education. I know certainly for us, when I was doing it, it was hard. You're missing sometimes Thursday, Friday for the first 5 weeks of school. And then it can be hard to bounce back from that.
Absolutely. I like right at the beginning of the semester, all 6 years, I go up, I introduce myself to my professors, especially in like bigger courses. Hey, my name's Faith. I'm on the rodeo team. I'm going to miss 5 Fridays,
Right off the bat.
Yep.
Well, and I think that's as you are more experienced in your collegiate career, that's something that you learn. If you're coming in as a freshman, you don't know that. You probably didn't have those conversations with your teachers in high school. So why would you do that in college? But it's just keeping those lines of communication open. And if you can establish that relationship up front, they're probably going to be a little bit more lenient with you in the long run because you've communicated with them kind of what your goals are and what it looks like for you.
Absolutely. So, and oh yeah. And I was grateful to have, mentors and people ahead of me that kind of warned me about that stuff going in, coaches, older teammates, things like that. But yeah, you create that relationship and, if a test ended up being on a rodeo weekend, say, hey, can I take it early? Offer that. Half the time they're like, no, just take it when you get back, and they're pretty good about handling it when they know you and see your face and see you in class. And
yeah, don't pull that if you're not going to class the other days either. It might not work. I'm sorry. Who are you? Are you registered?
Yeah.
So anyways, some other things that we want to talk about. I think there's still a handful of people, a handful of maybe even coaches that don't know about this, but we are launching this year the armband ceremony. So the normal come anytime between 1 and 3 to check in.
Stand in line for an hour and a half.
Yeah, that is not happening. Well, yeah, effectively, everybody was just coming at like 2:30 anyways, because then there's the mandatory meeting afterwards. So if you are a student athlete and you are watching, be there at 1 on Saturday because there is an armband ceremony. You have to be there. I assume if you miss it, there's a fine. Just start that list now.
Sure.
But it's cool. There are people working behind the scenes to make this more, more pomp and circumstance for the contestants, I would say. You guys have worked hard to get this far, and now let's make, it's just more about pouring into you guys as student athletes and making you feel welcome and celebrated, I think. Obviously, I didn't plan it, but I'm guessing that's the whole premise behind it.
No, absolutely. I think it's, it's a prestigious deal to make the college finals. They make a big deal about high school national finals, and what do they have, like 2,000 contestants there?
Yeah.
We don't have that many. It's definitely a niche group, and we have a lot of people that go from making the college finals to making the NFR. And it's a stepping stone, and it's a big deal, and kids should know that. And
Listen, not just making the NFR, like you have contestants that win the CNFR and in the same year win the NFR.
Yeah.
So it's very, very unique to college rodeo in particular, which we've talked about on this platform multiple times, but you can rodeo professionally and college rodeo at the same time. We're not regulated by the NCAA, so there's no like wonkiness there. It just is part of kind of the rodeo world. Many of us were high school rodeoing and amateur rodeoing at the same time, which I feel like is a similar comparison. You're going to as many as you can, no matter where they are or who is putting them on. And listen, it's not always for the money because it doesn't always come, but it is just for the competition and for the pure joy of the sport.
Seth, did you pro rodeo while you were college rodeoing?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I was one of those that was fortunate enough to make CNFR and then go to the NFR in the same year. It was a pretty unique experience, and very grateful for those opportunities.
Okay, so for somebody that did that, how old were you when you did this?
I was 19.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
That's why I was 20. Sorry.
I feel like that's pretty similar, though.
He's not a teenager.
There might not be a lot of growth between 19 and 20.
No, ma'am. No,
so let's talk about that. We had Cade, right, at the calf roping in the PRCA and the NFR. What is the difference? I mean, he mentioned something to me when I interviewed him last year that kind of struck me. Does it change for you when you are rodeoing at a college rodeo versus at a PRCA rodeo, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, we're talking a long time ago, so
that you can, and we're old, that you can remember.
Yeah, it was. I really struggled with the transition coming back to college. Like felt like I was ultra focused at the pro rodeos and riding well. Coming back to those first few years, coming back to the college rodeos, it was a struggle. And, one of those things you got to build through and get through. I mean, freshman in college, you're winning the pro rodeos, not winning you're not winning the college rodeos, and everybody's going, what's going on? You're riding great when you're not here, but now there's a inherited pressure. You get 10 chances and you have to maximize those. So there was an extra added pressure on myself at that time. When I was going to the pro rodeos, it was just go ride your bull,
go to the next one,
give it the best effort you can today, go to the next one. And you go through those slumps, and it's part of the game and part of it, especially in the bull riding. The cool thing about Casper is I really think it prepared me for when I made the NFR. You're in a small building, lots of energy during the short round. When you get to Vegas, small building, a tremendous amount of energy. And you have that experience, and you have that behind you, so you know how to react and perform.
Did you feel like, I don't know this, but I think maybe it might have something to do with it. Did you feel like maybe the environment was a little more lax at the college rodeo, whereas at the PRCA, like this is quite literally most of their jobs. Whereas, we still have those contestants that are even college rodeoing, but are also there to, screw around and party and have a good time. So do you think that may have played into it?
It may have. When I was that age, all I wanted to do was rodeo. So it was, I was just thankful for the opportunities to be able to get on and compete. Like I said, it might've been there. I don't know. Can't tell you for certain.
Yeah. Well, and what a great, so that's some great insight to be able to provide to your students now.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. To at least share my experiences. I mean, theirs could be totally different. But at least in those situations, I can say, hey, this is how I approached that. This is how I handled it. And they can take it and run with it, or they can go there, figure it out on their way, how they want to handle it.
Yeah, which they will, right?
Yes, we all
I would, you're right. Unfortunately, I would also add, I think that having coaches in the collegiate level that have made it to the NFR, that have had some success under their belts, I feel like humanizes the NFR. I know when I was little, like they were on this huge pedestal that I didn't feel like was attainable for me. And when you kind of, I mean, social media probably has done this also, but when you, not that you knock them off their pedestal, but when everybody's kind of on that same playing field and you realize that they put their pants on one leg at a time also, it just makes it, I feel like it makes it attaining that goal a little more of an option, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and really seeing a transition from when I was in school till now, the amount of coaches that are coming in that have had that experience of competing at a very high level versus what it was like. There was just a handful when we were college rodeoing and just a select few that had been there and done that. So it's cool to see how rodeo is evolving, college rodeo is evolving, creating these opportunities for our students. I mean, right now it's a great time to be in rodeo. There's a lot of money to be won and a lot of opportunities, and they're growing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Faith, you know this as well as every other cowgirl in the nation right now, that the opportunities even for women are exploding, not just in the breakaway roping, but also in the goat tying. I don't expect the goat tying to extend any farther than where it's at, but there's more jackpots, more big jackpots. Like you can go to a jackpot and win a lot of money for the goat tying. And breakaway roping, I know that there's a huge push. We're not quite at the same money added as some of the men's events, but the fact that we're on the board is like, that's a start. Let's start there.
Absolutely. It's really awesome seeing the opportunities. And I think it does start with coaching, like you mentioned with, I mean, we're blessed in this region to have a handful of NFR qualifiers as coaches, not just Seth, in the region. And being student director, I kind of get to know all of them and get to pull a little bit from each of them. And it's cool getting to see that and taking what we're learning from these coaches and then getting to go to these opportunities. And I think the track almost is a little faster right now for student athletes than when I first even got into college 6 years ago. I think I would maybe go to one jackpot a year, in the goat tying.
Because it didn't really make sense.
Right. Usually it'd be like a local kind of person that put it on for those of us getting ready to go to the college rodeos. That's kind of all it was. And now there's a handful of them around, especially for the younger kids, getting them, we get to have high level experience goat tying in this region. I think we're pretty tough around here, and we get to be around those girls 10 weekends out of the year, which is awesome. And then you add these jackpots and some of them younger girls can come and, throw their name into the pot with us. And it's pretty cool. And I didn't have those opportunities when I was that age, and it's cool to see them. And the amount of money, let alone just getting runs, and being competitive.
So you mentioned my senior year I had the opportunity to tie locally with a handful of girls that were tough. I mean, Heidi Knapp, that's her maiden name. We went to Casper College, went to UW, won the nation, I think more than once. That's who I tied with growing up. And I had an opportunity to go to a goat tying clinic. I'm pretty sure it was Lynn Smith at the time, Lynn Wiebe at the time. But it was I think it was the first event in UW's new arena.
That's awesome.
And that it was my senior year. So it was kind of one of those things where like, take everything you can get, keep what works, leave the rest. But that name is still around in college rodeo. I mean, she's coaching, I believe she's coaching at Cochise. You mentioned that she was tying with a group of girls from UW right now, helping you guys get ready for the finals. So those names are sticking around. And I just want to add, we talk a lot about coaches on this platform. This is a labor of love. Like you don't become a college rodeo coach because it pays well. You do it just like Seth said, you come back to give back to a sport that helped you to be successful in your life or helped you get where you are. You come back to do the same for somebody else. And I think that oftentimes the coaches are kind of overlooked and maybe not given enough credit because it's not easy. We have had a lot of kids at our place personally in and out for the last probably 5-6 years, probably even more than that. And it's fun to be involved at this point in their life because you know what's coming. They don't have a clue, but you know what's coming. And to kind of maybe guide them a little bit, that's the labor of love. That's where it pays back. And that's where you, I don't know, it's just a good way to build the sport and to keep giving back. So that's my shout out to all the coaches. I mean, you in particular, but all of them for sure. So gosh, I think we could probably BS for a really long time, but let's talk about some results from the Central Rocky Mountain region in particular. Go ahead and talk about whoever. I'm guessing I know who's going to answer it, but whichever one of you, talk to me about your men's and women's team qualifiers.
So, University of Wyoming, my school, we were blessed to be able to send 2 full teams. Our men's team won the region again for the 5th year in a row, I believe. And then the women's team was second. And it was less than 200 points. So it was a close race down to the short round, between the women's events. Gillette College won the women's. They had a phenomenal year. It came down to the wire. It was a tight race. It was kind of fun because the team, being on that team that was close, it's not something you practice for. It's not something like I'm going out to get team points and that, like you're focused on your event. And so it kind of just happens, but it's still exciting. People are looking, there's coaches writing numbers and doing math and things like that. That was fun. And then Casper College actually was the second in the men's team. So they're going to send a full team on the men's side as well.
Very good. Very good. So Gillette College, in, I would say, the big scheme of things is kind of a younger rodeo program. It's probably been longer than I think. Seth, how many years has Gillette had a rodeo program now?
I think Will's been the coach for 14 years. I guess they started that program in 2008. So
okay. Geez. So it's been way longer than I thought. But still, I mean, when you're comparing rodeo programs that have been around, like Casper College, 75 plus years, then it makes it look really young. But Gillette's one of those kind of no-brainers. Like it made sense for Gillette to have a rodeo program. And I know in 2020, there were a couple of colleges, I believe it was Gillette and Sheridan College, that had their entire athletics department kind of chopped. And the rodeo program remained. I mean, they did not get rid of the rodeo program. And that, I mean, I think that speaks volumes to the success of the programs. Not to say that the other academics or the other athletic programs weren't successful, but I feel like the rodeo program, it carried itself. And they didn't really have to rely on the other funding from the school. So go ahead and talk about your all-around positions.
Seth, do you remember the men's?
Cam Jensen and Bodie Matson were the men's team or the men's all-around champion, and then Hayden Thompson and Sage.
Carissa Rahill was the
I forgot
the reserve all-around, and I think Hayden had the women's wrapped up, maybe even a couple rodeos. I don't think any of us could have caught her.
Yeah, she was a little over 700 points ahead.
Yeah, she had a phenomenal year. Really, I mean, Gillette has a phenomenal team. I don't want to say she carried their team, but she definitely was a good chunk of their points. And then Carissa, that came down to the short round as well at our last rodeo. We didn't know who the reserve all-around champ was going to be until the end of short round. We had a handful of girls that were all pretty tight, and Carissa made it back in 2 events, got points, and earned her spot.
So let's talk about the men's all around really quick. I'm moving windows around, so sorry. We're looking at less than 30 point separation for the men's all around, and that's 2 University of Wyoming Cowboys. So, I mean, I don't know that maybe by this late in the season, you're watching that all around, but you're not really, like you said, it's kind of like those team points. Like you go out, you do your event, and you kind of let the chips fall where they may. But at this point, maybe you have a little bit of an eyeball on those year-end standings. Like 30 points is
One round.
extremely tight. Yeah.
Yes.
Extremely tight. And there's got to be a little bit of like messing around with each other at this point. I mean, did these guys talk about it?
Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah.
we actually, I'm not looking at it, but didn't we have 4 in a row on the men's side?
3 in a row. 3 in a row.
3 in a row. Okay. So
Rio
UW
was in the 3rd position.
we have a fantastic men's team. They're great guys. They all practice together every day. You know, they're good comrades. Rio, Bodie, they're roommates. You know, they get along. And like they tease each other about it, and they know. But who you don't see on that list is Bryce Patterson. And so we have a rule in NYRA that you have to have 200 points in more than one event to show up in the all-around race. Well, Bryce Patterson has a lot of bareback points, but he didn't have 200 bulldogging points. And so those boys knew that he needed 60 points in the bulldogging, and he'd knock them all out.
And then everybody was moving down.
And they all knew that.
Oh my gosh.
And it was similar in my instance. So I had more points in the goat tying than Carissa did as reserve all around, but I didn't have 200 points in another one of my events. So I didn't show up in the all around race. So Carissa gets to go, even though I had more points total. So due to that rule. So not only are they looking at that race and those points, but they also know what these other
what they have to do.
Yep. Going into this last rodeo.
Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot here. We have talked about that quirky all around rule in every regional conversation so far. And it really is a game changer. So listen, I'm sorry that you did not get those like 200 points, but talk to me about how close it was, because you compete in how many events do you compete in?
Well, 2 normally, but the last rodeo I entered all 4.
Yes, because you needed a few more points.
Well, I entered my last one on all 4 just because it was my last one. But I think about it, and people ask me, and I go back and forth, and absolutely would I have loved to go to college finals in 2 events this year. But I entered my last rodeo in the barrel racing, and I borrowed a really awesome horse. And I ended up 4th in the long round, 4th in the average, 4th in the short round. And so I ended up with more points in the barrels than I did in the breakaway rope in the whole year. I entered 10 rodeos in the breakaway. It just, it didn't work out. I was like 11th and 13th or, if I did make short round, it was too long to get points. Those kind of deals happen. And thinking back, they were like, man, if you would have borrowed that horse for, 2 more rodeos. And I said, yeah, but I don't deserve to run barrels at college finals. I said, Carissa, she deserves. She made that horse. She worked hard. She was a lot higher in the barrel standings, than if I were to just go get 200 right there, So I was like, I understand it. Like, you shouldn't be able, in my opinion, I don't think you should be able to get the amount of points in one rodeo that you'd need to show up in the all around.
So, okay, answer me this. If you would have entered, or let's say the barrel point, let's say you would have gotten enough points in the barrel racing, would you been able to pick up the 3 events? Would you have been able to do goat tying, breakaway, and barrel racing?
No, it would be your second. So your second highest event is what you take in the all around. You'd only get to take 3.
You don't get to take all your events.
No, only if you qualified outright in all 3, then you get to go, but you get 2. So like the year I did win the all around, I was actually 4th in the breakaway. And so I didn't qualify in the breakaway, but I took it with the all around. Okay.
That's good to know. So I wasn't really clear on that. I just kind of assumed you got to take all your events. If you were, I knew you had to place in a certain position, but I just assumed you got to take all of them. So that makes way more sense. And for those people that are competing in more than 2 events, I mean, there's 4 events for women to enter. That would be really hard. I would have had a hard time choosing which one I wanted to go in.
Well, and thankfully, it's not so much of a choice. It kind of, and, it is a percentage. There's sometimes it happens with teams when you have to pick up some kids that didn't qualify, and, it's not outright, they were 7th and they were 8th, they were 7th in the goats, but there's a lot less goat tires. They were 8th in the barrels, and there's a lot more goat tires. So the percentage is actually,
Right.
And so it gets a little tricky in those things. I think as directors, I was blessed to qualify this year. And my goat time was obviously way higher than my other events anyways. But there's other directors I know that have been very similar in certain events. And so they've kind of almost got a choice in what they get to take to college finals.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I've asked this of everyone and nobody likes to answer it, but I'm going to ask you guys anyways. We have mentioned a few names. Who do we need to be watching for specifically from the Central Rocky Mountain region?
I'll answer this on the men's side, I guess. The bareback riding is very strong in our region. I think there's three guys going that all have a chance. The bareback riding across the board with the amount of young talent coming in, I think is going to be an event to watch this year. You got Sam Peterson and a lot of them guys from the southern region that are going to be very talented, and it's going to be an exciting event.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because oftentimes I feel like the conversation around bareback riding is there aren't young kids getting involved. And I think that's been the conversation for 5 or 6 years. I mean, that I know of, that people were just not, it seemed like it was starting to fade out and there just weren't as many riders. So I'm really happy to hear that maybe that conversation is turning around a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think the future of that event is looking bright. It's really watching at the pro rodeos and seeing kind of the changing of the guard, as you would say.
Yeah.
And it's been exciting and kind of fun to watch. And, you had Donnie win Red Bluff on Virgil, yeah, the other day, and that was pretty neat. So I think having that confidence going into the college finals would be great.
For sure. Faith, who you want to call out?
Yeah, I mean, I go compete, so I feel confident. But I think I mentioned our goat tying. Every year I feel like whatever goat tires we send from this region, they have a shot. It's not a walk in the park to have to tie goats around here. It's pretty cool. We're actually sending 4 with Carissa in the all around, and so we're actually sending a freshman in Hayden, 2 6th years. Well, Carissa's not a technical 6th year; she took a year off, but she's the same age as me, and then a sophomore. So it's pretty cool. I think they're tough. And then our barrel racers they're salty too. I think the barrel racers we're sending, they got a shot.
So let's talk about Hayden for just a hot second. She is coming off a pretty amazing senior year in high school, and obviously carried it right into her freshman year in college. One of the things we talk about a lot is that once we kind of get to this level at the collegiate level, a lot of the talent is very neck and neck, which we've talked about that. We've seen that in the results. We've seen it in the points. Where people start to kind of separate themselves is at this level, at this stage, and the mental game. How do you feel, or I guess I maybe Faith, you don't want to talk about this. Maybe this would be a good question for Seth, but what is the difference between where she's been as a senior in high school versus now where she's going and the CNFR and that type of experience? I mean, obviously it's going to help her to be successful at the CNFR, but is there a difference?
I think I've talked to a few kids these last couple of weeks about going to see, like their first CNFR.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to be there a couple of times, and I can tell them it is a different energy than other rodeos. It's high energy, like Seth was talking. It is a little different, but I mean, I know Hayden, and she's amazing, and she's competed at a lot of other big rodeos. She's been successful at Shawnee High School finals, Gallup, Little Britches finals, the Patriot. I mean, she's well traveled, and she's competed at other big levels. I don't. She's a freshman, and everyone talks about that. I don't see her as a freshman. I see her as an equal competitor. She's amazing. Not only is she a fierce competitor, but she's as encouraging as anyone else. If I make a good run, she's high fiving me as I walk out the arena as soon as I get there too. She's a great competitor. She's who you want in your region, because you're going to see that level when you get to college finals. And so getting a tie against that, rope against that, she's going to be there in the breakaway rope, and too, she's going to be a wolf in whatever she does. She won a rodeo in the barrels, just she's a good one.
Perfect. Seth, did you have anything to add?
No, I think Faith covered all of it. Just I think having the amount of talent in our region just pushes our whole region to be better. And, Hayden's definitely leading the charge on that, on the women's side. And her and Faith and Carissa, all them Sage, all them girls are pushing each other to be better, and they're trying to win. As a coach and as a fan of rodeo, it's fun for me to watch and see that.
Well, Faith, you got me thinking about some stuff here, because the amount of different competitions that are available, it does change that mental game at this level. And I would also add that that's partially why I believe we'll see some of those production changes and some of those changes, like we talked about with the armband ceremony. I mean, if we want to continue to be the Rose Bowl of college rodeo, then we're going to have to up our game as well, so that we can be like the end all be all of college rodeo. But we have to make it. I mean, if they're able to go to all these other events and win all this money and see all this success and see all kind of the limelight and the fancy things and get that pomp and circumstance as contestants there, then we have to also be able to step up our game as the NIRA and the CNFR committee here local, and you guys as a board. I feel like it's on you too, to step up your game at this level so that we can continue to compete and continue to offer, that prestige of winning a national championship at the collegiate level.
Absolutely. And I think on the women's side, obviously as a goat tire, this is almost our NFR, right? This is the end of the line. These are the last 4 goats I'm going to tie, probably competitively. And for a long time it was like that in the breakaway as well. You could go to amateur rodeos and WPRA finals and things like that. But really, that was the incentive, was for girls to college rodeo, was because you could breakaway rope and goat tie. And now that breakaway roping is, far exceeded that, right? I don't want to get the acronym wrong, but the NFR, the breakaway roping, they can go do that now. And there's the rope for the crown. They have a back number ceremony, right? Those kind of deals. There's prestige in the breakaway roping now past college rodeo. And so, I think you're right. We are going to have to up our game. I mean, you're still going to get the crazy goat tires like me to stick around as long as we can. But, I think you're right. We do need to level up and, make sure we are keeping this a prestigious deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys, we're coming up almost on an hour. So, do either of you guys have anything that you want to add? Anything as rodeo fans that we need to know coming into this CNFR?
Seth?
Just look forward to having, that home court advantage. We appreciate the people in Casper that come out and support the college rodeo, and, the people that show up and cheer extra loud for the Wyoming schools. It just kind of holds a special place in my heart, and just appreciate them.
Absolutely. It's technically a neutral court because that's not where our college rodeo is, there in Casper, but it is definitely a home deal. When first time I heard them announce University of Wyoming
Mhm.
in there. I was first out in the breakaway my first year I made it. And so they bucked 9 Bearwreck riders, and then it was Faith Hoffman. But they announced University of Wyoming, and that place roared on a Sunday. Like it was so cool. And you feel that backing, and everyone walks by, see the brown and gold, and they say "Go Pokes." It's a cool feeling, and it's so exciting. We're excited to see everyone there.
For sure. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you guys getting on technology. It worked in our favor today. That's not always the case. So thank you guys so much. And, we'll see you in, just about a week.
A week.
All right. You guys have a good weekend.
Thanks, Heidi.
All right, you guys, that was a good chat. Lots of good information, lots of stories and behind the scenes stuff. Hey, before we check out, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, of course, Cinch Jeans and Shirts, who is a partner for the NIRA and the official CNFR, as well as Bullfrog Creatives, been a partner of ours for, I believe, going on 3 years now. Also want to give a shout out to RAM, the official automotive sponsor of the NIRA, Cactus Ropes, Cactus Saddlery, Cactus Gear, and Resistol Hat is the official hat maker for College Rodeo. Also have a new national sponsor this year. Shout out. They are fueling local rodeo fans and have been for more than 90 years. Listen, if there was ever a better partnership, that is definitely it. I don't even want to know what these student athletes' gas bill looks like. Of course, want to give a shout out to Visit Casper, Wyoming's adventure capital. They kind of have embraced, I can say this because I am a Casperite, born and raised here. I did leave to go to college and then ended up coming back. But Visit Casper has really embraced the NIRA and College Rodeo as kind of their hometown event. And so definitely want to give a shout out to them, as well as Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment. If you look around, while you will see the yellow arena wrap, you can see all the green. That is courtesy Powder River Livestock Handling. And a special shout out to Maynard Buckles as they donate the championship buckles for the College National Finals Rodeo. You guys, it would take me another hour to go through all of the local sponsors, but we just want you guys to know that we are super grateful for all the support. And we will be back on Friday. We're going to be traveling on Friday, so it's probably going to be in the car. Who knows how it's going to go? As you know, it's kind of hit and miss. So we will be traveling, but we will have Sonora, the student director from the Southern region. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. From the Southern region. And then next week, we're going to hit up a couple of more. We will have 2 regions on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have 2 regions. And then we're actually going to be, everyone will be here next Friday for the West Coast region. So that should be entertaining at minimum. You guys, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you on Friday.
Perfection almost looks easy. No! But it isn't. Here's to those who go the distance.